starting.
I know, but because your camera
We are
was...
live.
Yes. I was just saying, because your camera's not working, it's better if we're both the same.
No, it doesn't matter really to me.
Okay.
But
I think...
Are you mansplaining to me again?
No, I am mansplained before. Now I'm just beating my chest and being toxic.
Mansplaining to me again.
No, I
am. Okay, so we are live. I don't think there are any other people yet.
Yeah. So we just chat. We just continue with our little ramble.
Yeah, we continue with our little ramble when John is trying to mansplain me things, but
I'm an oppressive patriarch with all the power, despite the fact that this is her stream and I'm just a guest she can boot.
Listen, can I be honest? Squeeze your balls, sit like a sissy, and stop mansplaining. Sorry.
You know, with an offer like that, I'm sorry. I have to stop now because she's tempting me to a bit of self-pleasure. I better mute myself in case some bad noises come out of me. Squeezing my balls, yes. Led Zeppelin wrote a song about that.
You know, like the people complaining, women complaining about
manspreading.
Manspreading, that was about it, because they cannot understand that you guys cannot sit differently. It's uncomfortable to you. So, and even if you could sit differently, who the fuck cares?
Well, I think to be fair, what it is 95% of men aren't inconsiderate about it, and a small number of dicks are, and like everything, feminists want to paint all men as being that 5% of dicks.
Yeah, and to be very fair, this is exactly a good point, because if I go to the bus and there is a guy sitting, and let's say he sits the way that he really is taking, the other spot, as soon as I want to sit, most guys, I don't have to ask them. I just say,
of course not, because...
And they move, they sit off, as good as they can for the both of us, right?
Of course, because that's normal human behavior, isn't it? Because
women, for a change, when they put their backs on the other seat, they often do not take those backs on, out of themselves. Like, you have to ask them. They are unhappy about doing that. No, I'm not saying that if I had, for example, heavy backpack, that I never put it on a place next to me.
But you still recognize that if someone wants that seat, you put it on your lap.
When there is more people coming, even though there is more seats around me, I still will put my bag or my backpack on the lap, making it clear to people, there is a seat to be taken.
No, exactly. Most people are decent, and the dicks are of both sexes.
Yeah. Hi there, Ludicrous. I never can pronounce the name. Hi there.
Ludicrous Leprechaun.
Yes, that person. Hi there.
Just call him Ludicrous. We do.
As soon as I can pronounce it, I will.
What, Ludicrous?
Not today. Ludicrous.
Ludicrous.
Yeah, ludicrous. Why can't I say that thing? That word.
Look, I'm not going to mock you, because
you can.
English is your third language. I think if I could speak two other languages, I might be in a position to comment. But being stuck with one.
It used to be my fourth, because I used to speak German. I don't speak that language anymore, but I could pick it up.
That is only right and proper. That you elevate English above German. That is the correct natural order of things. Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
And you are in the Netherlands, which is part of the vast majority of Northern and Eastern Europe who recognise that English is the second language.
Yes. Yes, but I do want to work to actually learn English, to speak proper English. But I don't.
Not if you want to be understood.
Well, no, okay, to speak English better.
Joking.
Yes, I understand actually. But the thing is that I don't think I will go for an English accent. I like it, but I think just try to.
Which English accent? We have many.
Yeah, okay, you know what I mean.
No. Because it's a funny
Yes,
thing.
you're right, but I just go with dumb American and that's it.
No, that's fine. But again, which one? You
Yeah,
see, I personally, I personally like talking to Americans because they speak English far better than a lot of English people who seem to think that it's okay to stick R's everywhere they don't belong.
yeah,
You know? It's like
yeah,
there's no R in Bath. Bath, Bath.
yeah.
And an American says it the same. They say a bath. They don't say a bath. They're not bloody German. I know it's a Queen's English and she is. Okay, I understand the heritage, but we are not. We're English.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I understand.
I'm trying to be as un-PC as possible.
Why?
Why? Because
Yeah.
it's the bedtime and it's worth having a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, exactly. No, but you know what I mean. I need to work on my grammar, but not today. Today.
Well, you could go, okay, the rain in Spain falls mostly on the plain. That's
Okay,
an elocution, Sam.
no more French beer for you.
No more French beer for me.
Yeah,
Sadly, I control the fridge.
yeah. You shouldn't though. You shouldn't.
Mainly. I, Sam, or Lou, mainly.
I don't
Uh,
know the mainly part.
the rain in Spain, it falls mainly on the plain. He's correctly, okay, mea culpa, he's correctly picking it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, exactly. We should, none of us get above ourselves, even me. Okay.
Even me.
Sorry, that was very conscious on my part. By which I mean especially me.
Now. And now.
And now?
Bloody hell, I'm starting to be really tired. That's going to be fun.
Oh. Actually, it's funny. I find streaming actually wakes me up.
Yeah, well.
It's the stress. It's my bad computering messing your attempts to stream up and cutting us to the bone on time.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh my god, I really don't see if I pressed something. Did I do something? I'm really stupid with that still because this is like the second time, I'm setting it up, and the first time I'm not quite set it up and just had to go, and it was a long time ago. So, thank you for help, John. Thank you for talking me through it. Anyway, how many more are due in? You mean to join the chat?
Yeah, I've just written
Yeah.
him an answer.
Do you want to join us?
I ask him, but you see, the funny thing is leprechauns are oddly shy. That's probably why you never actually see many in person.
But maybe you want to try.
He is frequently asked.
Okay.
But as I say, when you're shy by nature, it can be very hard to take the plunge.
I know. We promise we'll be nice. Although I can't promise about John because.
Hey, I'm one of the nice Englishmen who's only got a history of oppressing the poor Irish.
Mm. Hi there, Nick's Radio. So, Nick.
Or Matthew.
Um.
Matthew is his actual name.
Okay, hi there, Matthew.
It's not a secret, by the way. He actually has it in his bio. So I'm not. Oh goodness, I've got my
Well,
wires all tangled up.
I'm kind of assuming you know what you're doing. Otherwise, I would have to block your mic, and I don't know how to do that.
Oh, sorry. I've got 2 power cables and a headphone cable, and they've all got entangled around each other. And the more I try and untangle them, you can guess the rest. They are now almost that knot, that famous Greek knot. I can never remember the name of the one that's impossible to cut.
Yeah. I'm
And so
sorry. Ludicrous, it's okay, mate. You are welcome to join. So it makes.
sorry, Nick's Radio, but it is in your bio. Gordian, yes, exactly, the Gordian knot.
And don't worry, Ludicrous. It's like you are welcome, and you are welcome to stay in the chat as well.
Oh, God damn it. Sorry.
John, stop doing whatever you're doing because you sound worse. Just leave it as it was. It was working fine, at least for us.
No, you started roboting at my end.
There's some problems now at your end because not that good.
You will get over the hurdles soon. And I have spoken my full name in multiple videos. Exactly. I would never dox anybody who wasn't already.
John, you don't. John,
Sorry?
what have you done? You're not sounding right. What have you done? Plug everything
You're
back.
not sounding right to me either, funnily. There seems to be a connection problem on this Hangout. I'll drop out and rejoin.
Okay. So we are waiting for John to rejoin, if he will. And he might have some problems. I'm going to wait a few more minutes. And yeah, I understand, Nick. It's especially nowadays. I understand why you said that. Indeed, in case that no one will then have a problem with John saying your name. Anyway, we are waiting for John. I'm hoping a few more people will come, but I am going to start soon because it's late already. John is well known for that. So I'm curious, will he come back? Anyway, I think it's so quiet. I'm going to slowly start. Today's stream is going to be about our society, about the way we've gone really soft as a society, and how on daily basis it is screwing our children. And what I mean by that are the simply situations that I see as a parent, that people can't stand their child crying anymore, that people cannot be consequent anymore. I was hoping to have more people on the stream because I am curious how it is in other countries, how different we are here in the Netherlands. But well, I hopefully do have John with me in a moment. although he's not coming for a pretty long time, so maybe something happened. But yeah, anyway, I see. Sure, Nick, have a good time. Have a good time, whatever you're going to do. And John, I can see you in the chat. Are you going to rejoin the hangout? Hey, there you are again. Welcome back. Yeah. I guess the connection is really, really poor. And there we lost John again. Yeah, I guess John is trying to rejoin. I hope so, otherwise it will be just me talking. Which might be really boring. Hey, welcome back.
I'm so sorry. You know that shitty laptop I was using?
Yes.
It suddenly decided it didn't want to play me any sound.
Yeah, he's even less stable than Theresa May.
Hey, that's uncalled for. Come on.
I only was quoting.
I mean, I know, and it's all fair in love and war, even if you can't spell Teresa. But that was still a low blow.
I was only quoting.
No, him. I'm talking about Ludicrous.
Yeah.
I'm saying Ludicrous. It's fair.
Okay.
You know, I give as good as I get. I'm not complaining.
He had some point there, don't you?
Low blow.
You had those your mama joke. Now you have a Theresa May jokes.
Trust me, it's not been called a woman. I've been called a woman many times.
It's been called her.
It's been called her. Yes. This is a personal, not general.
He didn't call you her. He said you're just less stable than she is.
I know, but to be mentioned in the same sentence, that isn't an exact. Like, you know, if you compare somebody as being the opposite, you know, like Hitler and Stalin, opposites, right?
I wouldn't even call him Theresa May. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. I love the banter. Hang on. I've got to do some major emojis here.
Yeah, don't lose connection again. Anyway, John, I don't know if you hear about a little bit, but I was going to say that we're going to talk a little bit about how we have gotten soft in our society and how does this screwing our children really.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something...
I didn't hear that, but yeah, absolutely.
I kind of started to start a little bit because what am I supposed to talk about other than...
What an incompetent boomer I am.
I didn't want to do that.
Well, thank you for being the one person in the world who shows restraint in this respect.
Ludicrous, but please don't make him do something about this because he will drop from the stream again.
Yeah, I've had to switch to the iPad.
And then there will be only me talking, so it will be twice as boring as it is now, because now we have the parts when John will talk and that will be
and the mere comedy of my dreadful attempts at doing this. So, but no, I'm using the iPad and it has zero. And I mean zero, there is literally no way to adjust the volume.
Yeah. And because there is only the two of us on the stream, I cannot compare with how others sounds. Because, for example, yesterday with Carlos, I had that the other people were way louder, but I don't hear that really because I just, put it on max volume with me and you're fine.
There is supposed to be a way you can adjust my volume a bit, but I'm not even going to suggest it. Well, no, so at least now you know. You can say, yes, it was brought up and we decided, for the sake of God, we would not do any more damage to the stream on a technical level.
We wouldn't do any more damage than John already did to the stream.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a boomer, and 35 years in IT means nothing. with the pathetic, dismal, abject apology for software as produced by Apple, Microsoft, and Google between them.
Yeah. But anyway,
if Windows 10 gets any worse, there won't be any computers running Windows.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, so the idea was, and the idea was of the stream, and I actually want John to talk a little bit about this. The way I see people today react on a daily basis to children, the way they cannot be consequent anymore and they can't stand their children crying. You are producing some weird sound, John.
Sorry, that was my keyboard.
Okay.
I will learn to mute, but I have to then switch screens because...
No, don't do it. It's okay. I know what it is. I know it's nothing happening. That's okay. That's basically what the stream is going to be about. What I mean is that I really see on the daily basis that people think, they're really too soft as a parents. Example, today our son has a really bad allergies, therefore he is not allowed to take food from other people. It is because he's too small to recognize what he can and cannot eat. An amount of times people ask me, for example, can he get something to eat when you are there next to him? And I'm saying, you know what, I appreciate, but no, because to him, it should be clear situation that he's not allowed to get food from strangers, from other people than me and his daddy. It's not because I don't trust you, but it's because he doesn't understand that it's okay to take food from you or it's okay to take apple, but it's not okay to take other things to which he is allergic. And then my son, of course, will put a terrible tantrum. Mm-hmm. He will yell and scream because he still really wants it. Not every time, but it's happening regularly. And when he does that, I still say no and I let him calm down, but I let him cry it out. And basically people are shocked because they found it so harsh on him. And today I was even annoyed because someone was trying to correct me, said, but it's so harsh on him. Well, I said, when he's dead, it's actually worse.
Yeah.
And people are, not all of them, because there is also, a great amount of people who understands that. Mm-hmm. There are people who I don't have to explain, but to my liking, there are too many people that they think, but it's so hard on him. And there are many situations, small situations, when I see that people don't let children wait anymore, that people don't let them lose something, break something, and to actually realize, it's broken. And I'm curious, how do you remember it, John, at your times, if I can say, because there is some...
Well, my parents were always very firm, and it's like, I cannot claim in my dotage to remember that much about being a small child.
Mm-hmm.
But we were never... we actually used to go out to restaurants and things quite regularly for the society at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you behaved. You ate what you were given.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't leave the table till everyone had finished.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't speak back to your elders and that sort of thing. You behaved. And if, so I cannot remember back far enough to know what the learning process was like, which is what you're going through. But I remember the later point where you just understood that's how it was.
Yeah.
Because there weren't alternatives. There was no line to push against because the line was right at the hard end.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you mean. And I do think what I see, the problem to me is this. The difficult situations for children, they should be appropriate to their age, obviously. And it is really good if there is no traumatic situations happening in the lives of family or children. Of course, it's the best, right? When there is no sickness, death, terrible traumatic situation, because it's often not appropriate to the age. But the point I'm trying to make is that by letting children to have those small difficult situations, you already teach them to control their emotions, how to behave when the things don't go the way they want. And to people, it's often, especially in the country where I live, it's really ridiculous when I'm saying, okay, my son is 3, and when he wants that particular car, or when he wants to, I don't know, get a banana at the shop before I pay for it, we think it's such a small thing to do. Oh, let it go. Oh, it's 5 bananas in one box. They, you don't have to weigh them. They just cost, for example, €2. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is that I haven't paid for it yet. And the problem is that you need to wait. The problem is that there are a lot of other things that, yes, for example, I remember those moments when he was younger and I would wait to pay, and he would be giving me really tantrums in the buggy. He would be really rocking that, stroller. And the people in the casa would say, things like, oh, but give it to him, not a problem. And they meant well, but at the same time, I often did see they don't understand when I say, no, I appreciate it, but he has to learn. I'm sorry that he's yelling right now, because I understand you have to, count the money. But at the same time, my thinking was, if I do it now, pretty soon I will be having a child who will be yelling, throughout the whole process of shopping.
Exactly. You don't fix anything by postponing addressing it. You just make it worse.
Yeah, I remember even once a woman who was waiting also just in front of me to pay, she was really angry with me that Eirik was yelling and making a scene. And Eirik was like, I'm sorry, my son was like, I don't know, 2 by then, right? So, and she was quite rude to me, and she basically say, what's the difference? Then give him what he wants. I have to listen to you. Why should I listen to you? She told me something like that, and she was quite old. And I say, you know why you have to listen to it? So I can raise him well. So when he comes across your grandchild, he doesn't beat the shit out of him just because he doesn't like him or just because he wants something your grandson have. That's why you have to listen to him. Right now. So that he actually will become civilized, normal human being.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a shame that's been lost. Just that basic concept.
But it's also, people often in this country say, oh yeah, but he's still small, he has to learn. And I'm with my husband like, but
that's what we're doing.
How can he learn if I don't teach him?
Yeah. Oh dear. People are so dumb. They think it happens by magic.
Yes. Hi there, pioneer. So to me, by giving those small steps, by giving those small difficult situations, you basically starting to
Yeah, because it's a
measure-
gradual thing. It's a
Yes.
gradual thing. You know, as I say, it doesn't happen overnight. And these idiots go, oh, well, they need to learn that. What, do you think they get up one morning and they've learnt it when they haven't the day before? Because
exactly.
you know, the good behaviour fairy had come to visit during the night. No, it's a. In fact, pardon me. I've heard evolutionary biologists talk about this. Basically, what it is, the child and the parents don't have identical interests. The child's best interest, even from an evolutionary point of view, is to be the only child. So it develops behaviours like crying at night and engaging in an early struggle of wills with the parent to try and be dominant and stop the parents from having other children. And the parents' interest is actually having more children.
Yes.
And so the child's interest and the parents' interest are not identical. And people who don't understand evolutionary biology think, oh, well, it's your child. Of course your interests are identical. No two people have identical interests, ever. Just similar interests. And thus, this is part of that evolutionary battle. The child is engaging in a fight to get its way as opposed to you getting your way.
Yeah.
And of course, you're the adult, so if you're clear-minded and determined and resilient, you win. And with all these idiots, it's, oh, well, it's so easy to give in. And they're not doing the child any good because they grow up to be spoilt, entitled feminists. I mean, people.
Yes, and
No, I don't. They don't do it deliberately on attack. It's an evolved behaviour. That's the whole point of an evolved behaviour.
yeah, I see what you get, and I heard that one somewhere as well. I don't remember who was talking about it as well, but the problem is also that yeah, I don't know. Have we become?
Well, I call it the luxury paradox or the luxury trap or something. You know what I mean? It's like the better off we come, it now makes us, like you say, unhappier. We don't have material need problems for the vast majority of people in the West, even people on welfare. And yet, no one's happy. What the fuck's wrong with people?
This is what also Peterson is talking about, that we've been fed up this lie that we should only pursue happiness, but
but even then you've got an internal happiness, right? Which involves contentness and you know, and like managing your expectations, deferring gratification, how you socialize with people. But instead we have a whole culture built around the opposite, which is materialism. Notice how feminists only ever talk about men and women and things like, oh, yeah, he's getting paid more than her.
Yes.
So fucking what if she spends it? No. It's all about the material. But that's not where happiness comes from.
And what Ludicrous Leprechaun was also saying, too many helicopter parents, and I also do agree with that. And that's when it comes in also, that the best for a kid is to have mommy and a daddy. I need to admit, I've changed, you know, it's funny because there are certain things that I was saying. Hello there, Toxic Threads. Oh, hey, Alicia. You want to join?
I don't think she can at the moment. She's got circumstances.
Okay. Well, you're welcome there. By the way, if I miss someone or something saying something in the chat, I'm sorry. Don't do it on purpose. the thing is that there are certain things what I always thought and said before having children, and those things, I believe it. I believe it in them even stronger now when I have a child, because before people used to say to me, "Oh, you will see when you have your own child. You won't be not." I am saying the same thing. I even believe in a lot of them stronger than I used to back then, because I actually see I was right on this one. The way I'm trying to achieve that changed, because a child teaches you a lot, and I do listen to different people actually on YouTube who talk about different approach of men and women, and how women can be too authoritarian towards the children. Hey, the real Raven.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Nice of you to join.
I sneaked in. I only saw the link
good.
now. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Welcome. You know the subject about the children and raising children and how we're failing. So anyway, I remember that, even some time ago, I said to my husband, there are certain things that I need to learn from you, because in a certain situation, I'm insecure because I'm trying to be too overprotective, and I see that. But because I'm trying to be, and it's just my biology, it's just being a mommy. I'm just like going to be, sitting, not doing anything on the playground, and see how you approach certain situations if they occur. And he's like, yeah, okay, fine. We do that, because I recognize that with some things I could do better, but I still have, in some situations, I think I try to be too overprotective, and I'm not sure how to, approach certain situations. So I'm having daddy to do this, and I'm learning from daddy, and I don't mind to saying that there are certain things that daddy can learn from me, and there are certain things that I can learn from daddy. But I see that also nowadays there is a culture here that they say, oh no, you are the mother, you know the best. No, I want the best for my child, but I don't know the best. I do make mistake as well. If we as a mothers know the best, what's for our children, why is it so that 80% of people who are in jail are single, single parents, children from single mothers, if we know really the best? But I was rambling on, and I probably lost what I wanted to say, because I was also reading the chat too much.
It is a hazard. It is a hazard.
Yeah.
Entertainment.
Study pods. That's an interesting term, Raven.
They need to take some small falls so they can handle big ones later. Indeed, Anitrak. Mine has been on holiday. Okay. Indeed, Anitrak. When I used to be au pair, because that's how I got to this country, that was the first time when I, really realized that when they playing sports, for example, you don't count the score, or when the score is counted and your team lost or you lost, the parent would say things like sometimes, they wouldn't say, okay, you need to practice more, then you will do better. Some of them would say that, but there would be also parents saying, yes, but the score is not important. It's really not important who won. And I'm like, hell yeah, it is important who won.
Wouldn't you say the referee was partisan here? He clearly was judging wrongly. That you were way better than the other team.
Yeah, that's another great one.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Yeah, you don't learn from winning; you learn from losing. That's
snatch a victory from the jaws of
defeat.
Of defeat, exactly.
I remember having a conversation with one of the mothers, and I asked her, "Don't you think that if you want to raise a winner, you have to allow your child to be loser first?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you need to get the strength to, recognize your mistake and do better."
Well, that's the father influence, apparently.
Sorry?
That's the father influence. So the mother's like, compassionate and supportive, and the father's like, "Get up, you wuss."
Yes. And these days everyone gets a prize. And to be honest, if my son at school will get a prize, a medal just for participating, I will talk to school about this, and I will say to my son that it's worthless. Not my son, but the medal itself. Your reward for participating is participating. It's having a good time. It's having a good game. It's being out in the field and playing.
Yeah.
That's the reward for participating. If you're good, if you fastest, if you, jump the highest, if you ran fastest, or if your team wins, that's the medal I'm interested in. And don't get me wrong, if you lose, it's okay too. You did your best. You want to win, you have to train more. You have to become better.
Well, I mean, as somebody who's naturally, utterly sportingly incompetent, I just don't have the physiology for it. So I wasn't any good at sport. My school I went to was very sporting. And it's like, so what they do is they have loads of teams. And, I might be in the crap team, but you still got to play, you know what I mean? You play other crap teams. Because the point isn't whether you're the best, because there's a limit to your capability. It's whether you improve and try. They're the factors, not actually winning, because out of however many there are, there's only one winner. But everyone else can go, "Oh, I was only 10th last time, and this time I got to 5th."
Yeah.
That's why the bronze medalist can still be really happy.
Yeah. And it's yeah, what is scary to me, and don't get me wrong, because I give a lot of examples from my son, and I don't mean that I'm a, perfect mother, because it's bullshit. There is a plenty mistake I make that I realize now, and there's a plenty mistake that I make I don't realize now. I realize them, in 10 years from now or later. But what scares me when I look around is the amount of people who are really too soft on their children.
Because they've got their
children will
priorities
not.
upside down.
And
They think immediate, how they are immediately is what's important, instead of thinking over the long term.
But the thing is that I understand this, because I do think that in certain situation, for me to being a little bit harsh, towards my son, and to be encouraging, or to be, to say that something is not allowed, there are moments when it's really difficult for me. It's like when I see he's playing me, hell no. But when I see it's really difficult for him, it's also difficult for me to be consequent, and I don't like it even a small bit. Because we as a mothers are sensitive, but I'm asking myself the question, if it's really hard and I feel like I'm going to, let it go, I'm asking myself the question, what he will learn if I let go.
Well, that's why you have two parents. Because you have roles.
Oh, am I on? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just to tell you from my perspective, I think that, from my experience, the mother is usually the one who is more on protecting the little, especially when the children are little, or even now, So you're kind of breaking the children down by, dissuading them from attempting challenging or maybe dangerous things, and then fathers is more like, okay, let's watch. It's more of a, so it's not so much you have to do this, like a pushing kind of personality, but kind of that, from my experience, it's more like you're allowing you're allowing and you're allowing to fail, obviously, as well. You're allowing your child to try something, maybe attempt something that's too difficult, and then allowing them to fail up to a point, obviously,
Yeah.
And I remember when we were kids, there's one more aspect. Obviously, when we were kids, I don't know whether the world was a whole lot safer or whether parents are just hypersensitive because they're more, I don't know, they are now, through nuclear families, they're more focused on the few children that they get nowadays. So we had more freedoms, we'd be cycling around, we'd be outside all the time. Not under supervision. You'd be 7, 8, 9, whatever, and you'd be on your bike, and like seeing like complete strangers and stuff. Going around in forestry and the city or whatever, and no one cared. And it's very hard to give that to your kids nowadays as a father, because people will just think you're just neglecting your child. But I think you need an amount of freedom to I don't know, to grow, I guess. That's my point anyway, that's my take. And I think that like women heed more to all the warnings that they get. This, the world is full of bad things and pedophiles and child abductors and dangerous traffic and whatnot, So let's just keep the children under lock, and under supervision, the hovering kind of.
I don't know how much safer was the world, 20, 30 years ago, obviously. But the problem is also with my problem, and I had that conversation with John some time ago. We also don't the behavioral part as well. When we don't engage into difficult situations with our children, it always should be appropriate to age, of course, to their age. But it's also, for example, in the country where I live, when the kid is doing making tantrum, at some point, if the kid is really yelling loud, really behaving bad, and you're still not giving in, people actually look at you and say, yeah, but it's so difficult. They think you go too far with you being consequent. When I think, no, my kid is going too far. He's yelling like someone would be pouring fucking boiling water on him, which is not my fault. He's not allowed to, I don't know, have that car because it's not his. And people think, yeah, but it's only a car. Why is it important? And I'm like, because when shall I start to raise my child? When he's 10? When he's 10, I'm having a bunch of other different problems. When, being with them, being 10 and all that. So to me, it's a little bit like learning to read. You're not giving the book. You learn the letters, and then the small words, and then the longer words. And then, along the way, first the alphabet, and then the small sentences, and then the longer sentences, and small text, and longer text. And then you finally can read the book. If I cannot teach my child that no is no right now when he's 3, and if by the age of 10, and I've seen it happening and it's terrible, the kid still doesn't know what no means, but they're coming more complex situations, more dangerous situations, more difficult situations, and the kid is still stuck at learning alphabet, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Instead of reading already small stories. So I'd rather have it now, him cry and be unhappy at the moment when I say that something is a no. And trust me, my little boy has really strong character. And
if you stick to the recommendation of Jordan Peterson, you want your child, you help your child to grow into something that you don't hate later, and more importantly, that other children can get along with. I think that socialization phase has to be finished by the time they're 4. So you have to be careful. They're still throwing regular tantrums after that, and just can't get on with other kids. That's a problem, because it's very hard to do it later. You have to do it.
To be honest,
between 2 and 4.
to be honest, my boy can mostly get along with children. He is fun to play, but he still has sometimes those, moments. He also starts to speak only recently, so there is also a lot of frustration coming from that. But what's scary to me is that some time ago I've been to Poland. A few months ago I've been to Poland, and what I also realized that on average, mothers in Poland are way more involved on the playground with children with ages, we have those stupid ages 0 to 3 or 4 years old. They are constantly just guiding the kid. No, don't throw the sand, don't do this, do it like that. Look, if you do this. Here I see mothers, not all of them, but way more, that they basically drop the kid to the sandbox and they don't guide the child how to behave. And I'm thinking, it's funny because theoretically speaking, in Poland we have our economic situation is really worse. On average, people have less money and more stress, also related to their economic situation. So you would think, if anywhere, the children would be more abundant there. Now, of course, it can hit, the poverty can hit such a state that you indeed mistreat your children, abandon them, and whatever, I think. But you would think, here the children would have better. They have it better if we talk about material things. But on average, and again, I'm not saying all parents in Poland are better or whatever, and I'm not saying all parents here are bad. This is not what I'm saying. But on average, I see mothers more involved in Poland.
Well, this is why I call it the problem, like paradox of poverty or prosperity, because it seems to be that parents exchange affluence for concern. So if you've got nothing else, you invest in your family, and that's where you get your satisfaction. Whereas if you, the adult, can gain your kicks, your entertainment from other things, you're not investing that effort into the family. And then that culture dies. Because a kid grows up with parents who aren't actually engaged with them.
Yeah. And this is another thing, like I really, I think this is also that in Western world, children often are seen as, is it English word, hindernis?
Burden.
No,
yeah.
Obstacle, hindernis.
Well,
Yes.
hindrance, obstacle,
Thank you,
in
John.
English we have lots of alternatives for the same thing.
Because
there is a problem with the modern lifestyle. It's to do with the nuclear family, which, in my view, has always been a step backwards, because the nuclear means you don't have your grandparents with you. I grew up with my grandparents, and I had my dad was self-employed. My mom was also working with him for a long time, so they were away for a long time. So we had kind of our surrogate parents with us, the grandparents. But you really kind of manage yourself, and you'd have friends, which is important, I think.
I mean, we're not designed to grow up in solely the family unit. We're designed to grow up in related communities, so that
tribal things.
Isn't purely with peers of their own age. There's a mixture of children of different ages. So you're learning from older children, you're taking care of younger children. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's a much more complex network of interactions everyone has. Whereas now, by the time somebody has their own child, they have entirely become disconnected from the whole process, and then they have to go and buy a book or take a class, instead of it just have always been part of the culture because a neighbor or a friend or a relative was in the process themselves.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I again was reading the chat, but what I wanted also to point out to that nuclear family, people having more stuff, more materialistic stuff, less time for children. Then there is a whole group of people when the both parents have to work because otherwise they will not manage. And then there is, this feministic propaganda at school. And I'm sorry if I'm off the subject a little bit, but I was concentrating something stream related, John. But I want
No,
to
that's fine.
point
That's
that
what
one
it's
as
there
well.
for.
Then you have this, at school they would talk to the children, especially to young girls, that you don't have to be just a mother and just to cook. You can have a career.
Yeah.
And here's what I hate. You have 30 children in a class, and you've been told that you, as a girl, you don't have to be just a mommy. You don't have to just having children and cook. There is a life out there for you, which is making actually sound like being a mom is something bad. So there is this kid, 1, 2, or maybe 5, that have staying at home mom, and they think
Oh, she's not
my
good
mother
enough.
didn't have it because of me.
Yeah.
And the
Or your
other
mother's
children,
not good enough. Because
yeah, and the other children who don't have a staying mom at home can say, despite having me, my mother could achieve this or that. How the hell are you going to?
Oh,
that's so-
it's a toxic message, you know.
It's a really toxic message, and God forbid my son will ever hear it at school,
But it's feminism. It's what happens when feminism drives the message, because they disdain biology. They're disdainful of reality. They're disdainful of the fact that, for most women, it's not a choice they have about a child. It's a natural yearning, because that's how we evolved.
Yes, that's how we survived.
Yes, we are only here because countless generations did that,
But I'm thinking, what is it in our society that we don't care that much for our children because of all this? So we don't really engage in that raising and correcting and going through all this, difficult times, or we simply don't know anymore. Have our life become too good, too easy? Because let's face it, my generation, I come from Poland, so I remember hard times a little bit with communism, and my father had a problem and stuff like that. But, at the same time, there was no war when I was born or at any point of my life. We weren't rich, but I didn't go through, extreme poverty when you go and hunt the dogs on the street to eat. I didn't get through all that. So our generation had it really good, if you want to compare it,
Yeah.
So is it that we just did have too good of a life? We became too naive, too lazy, and we think this will just do it?
Well, I worry, and I've said this before, I worry about debt. Because it used to be, and I said this in the chat, when I went to university at the beginning of the 1980s, it was all funded, but we had no money. We lived in the most basic house. It didn't have heating. It certainly didn't have a television. It didn't have a telephone. We didn't have cars. We didn't have computer. We had nothing. It was just very, very basic.
They weren't even invented then, John.
Very funny. Very funny. And the thing is if you don't have money, you learn to budget. You learn to appreciate money. You learn to consider how you spend it. And then, for reasons, I dropped out, and then I went back to university later to do another course. And within a few years, they had cars. The houses were all nice and centrally heated and fully furnished. They'd already switched to the high debt lifestyle. Before you've earned a penny, you leave university with this mountain of debt.
Yeah.
So the state's got you absolutely subservient now, because if you step out of line, you're not going to ever be able to pay that off because you can't get a job, and you're perpetually working to pay off a debt.
Yeah.
Instead of having the attitude, okay, I might not have much, but that doesn't mean I'm unhappy. Doesn't mean I can't have a life. It just means that life is about socializing.
It's also about making your own.
Yeah, and
being a self-made man, making your own future, right? Earning your own money.
Earn the money to get this and get that, and then you value the thing because you've earned it, instead of just buying them and then having debt and paying the debt off.
It's funny. It took me 53 years to get there. It's not that I have a lot of debt, but when you're employed with a company, it's similar because you don't really take the responsibility. It's just like somebody else is looking after the money, you know. So it doesn't.
Sorry, Sam.
No, but what you said, John, and I understand what you're saying, Axel, but just say how poor you were. I still remember when I was living in Poland at the time when I was, going out, right? And I was living on my own. And I was working part-time. I was still at school. Most of my friends, it wasn't like we could afford to go out every weekend. Yet with a lot of friends, we were out every weekend because we've learned that, okay, I don't have money, but you know what? This week you had money and you would just pay for me. And the next week you would be broke, but my money came and I would pay for you, and we wouldn't count how many beer did you drink and how many beer did I drink. We just would go with a bunch of friends, and we somehow managed not to, abuse it. And it was just, if you don't have money today, this is what we have, for example, for tonight, and we share it. And the next night, someone else wouldn't have money, and that's okay because you paid for me last night or last month. And I have money, and we would go.
That's
as a
how
group.
altruism developed.
This is how much money we have, and everyone would be fine with that. When I came here, it was unbelievable when I started to understand the language and what's going on around me. I actually remember the situation. It's a very famous here to have a apple pie with, I think you call it whipped cream.
Yeah.
And they basically would ask you with or without a whipped cream. And let's say that the apple pie costs like €2 and the whipped cream would cost 50 cents, right? So, like you overhear things if you sit in a cafe, and there were like two females sitting, what they would seem like friends. They would talk and talk and talk, and then they would come the bill to pay, and they would just look, and everyone would pay for their own. Fine, okay. And then at some point I hear, oh no, you still had the whipped cream, 50 cents. Oh yeah, I had the 50 cents. And I'm like, fuck me, I was with a friend of mine, and I went just to the toilet. I was like, on the way from the toilet, I'm going to pay for the both of us. But before I got there, she already paid for the both of us, and no one cared.
That's nice.
And next time I pay for her, and if I don't have money next time, then I say, oh, I don't have money this week. But and then I pay for her next time, and we are trying not to abuse it, but we are just like cool about this, and no one cares. And here people, not all of them, because I have also Dutch people who don't care, but that was something to me that you see on the street, and you would think like, what the hell is going on? Those people have more money than we have. And back then, when you're 20, you think that it's like they're supposed to be not caring for the money. It turns out we don't really care for the money. But it's to go back on the subject. This is also those situations when, it's we're teaching people to live only for themselves and by themselves.
Yeah, there's the round system. you can get completely pissed going out and not having a single euro on you.
Oh yeah,
Just
of course.
taking it's just everybody buys some beers for everybody else, you know. But it's quite crazy because you have to be able to take in a lot of liquid, you know. If you have like 5 people or 6 people, you know, then and there's like it goes around twice, then everybody has to drink 10 pints. So it's like, oh my god.
No,
You spend a
but-
lot of time pissing, you know.
Oh, trust me,
I do.
I spent the best part of a decade doing that. But unfortunately, you burn through what you earn very quickly.
Yeah. It's like you go out and it's basically okay. That's 50 euros, you know, going out. That's it. It's probably worth it. I don't know. I don't go out that much.
we're
I
too
drink
old for
whiskey
doing
then.
that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be, and it's not the same now. It used to be the great thing about the British pub in that the price of beer was relatively low in a pub. Like most countries, there's a big premium. You pay a lot more in the pub than a supermarket. And in Britain, it wasn't true. It wasn't that different. So
But it's
going
French,
out
I
to the
think.
pub, going out to the pub actually wasn't a particularly expensive way of having a drink. And so why not? And you met your mates, and you got to go around and visit lots of places.
But hasn't did it change?
Oh yeah, no, it's massively different now. You could buy. So, for instance, I drink Abbott Ale, and it's 440ml. Okay, but that's less than £1.
Mm-hmm.
If I bought
Abbott
a
Ale?
pint, if I bought a pint in a pub, it would be £5.
Okay.
So it's a little bit less. It's a little bit less in volume, but it's a fifth of the price.
Yeah. I understand because it's a common. I've heard that England seems to have some.
Well, it was our culture, you see. So the public house was essentially the centre, not the church, not the town hall. The pub was the centre of every village.
Yeah. Not the church?
No, the pub.
Okay.
We have an established church, so we don't have to pay it any attention.
True. But and that's how people come together and
Yeah. But I mean, you see, it goes back to the Middle Ages when we actually drank beer instead of water because the beer was safe and the water wasn't.
Yeah.
I'd say then people must have given beer to the kids as well then, right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was only weak. It was like 5%.
Yeah, it was really weak, but the drinking water was dangerous, so it was a no-go. Yeah,
That
good
explains
old days.
But yeah, we're a country of pissheads. No, we are. It's true.
You said that.
Culture is drinking culture.
I thought that was Ireland.
No, but you got to understand that the relationship between British and Irish culture. They have pubs. Why do you think they have pubs?
Okay.
No, why do you think they call them pubs?
Yeah.
Because
Publishings.
only countries originating in English culture call them pubs.
All right. They didn't call them something else before the English
Well, no, I'm just saying.
forbade them to talk in their own language.
Love, hate, but we've had a relationship since the Norman Conquest.
Uh-huh.
So the two countries have essentially been, even earlier than that, when the Romans left in about 450 AD, groups of Hibernians, that's Irish people, invaded southwest Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Then, 1,000 years later, a bunch of Scottish people moved into Northern Ireland. The cultural flows are immense.
That's why they talk so strangely up there.
Well, I mean, the point is it's been a two-way cultural exchange for 1,500 years at least.
Yeah, it was teamwork for a while. It's like we eat the meat and you eat the potatoes.
Well, and it's not quite that. That was because of the strange Irish inheritance system, which was very different from the primogenic eldest inheritance system. So the English had the eldest child inherited, or the eldest son inherited, which meant that estates remained intact, whereas the Irish had a culture of equally splitting amongst the children.
Oh yeah.
So so holdings got smaller and smaller and smaller, and a high density crop of the potato became essential because it was the only thing that could provide sufficient calories on such a small plot of land. But because it was all one strain, it was highly susceptible to a virulent parasite.
Like any monoculture.
Yeah. And, so unfortunately, we could say this with the hindsight of 170 years of science, it was a disaster waiting to happen. But that doesn't make what happened any better. Far from it. But, yes.
Oh, we're way off topic.
Doesn't matter. Hey, are we ever on topic?
No.
Well,
it was interesting.
So do you think
everything relates to everything else in a way?
Yeah, that's
true.
So do you think that women's or like mothers are like more a force that holds the kids back from?
And here's the thing: people vary, so it's always like on average.
Yeah, on average.
What was your question again? Do you think that mothers on average?
Yeah,
mothers are protective. Fathers
and that
are
they
developmental. So it's like it's yin and yang. That's what I say. It's a partnership. So the mother's role is to be there to be the nurturer and the carer and worries about harm, and it's a father's role to go, no, you are safe, or you will be safe.
Make the space
and give the child a target to be achieved to make their parent.
It's just hard. It's just really hard as a father to do that, during the week, because if you are working full time and you're away from home, then you barely get a chance for that, and so you have to make up for it in the weekends, and that's a tough one.
But but to answer your question, I think on average we mothers are overprotective. I know I have tended to be. I give you an example, and I love that example because it shows good how children react. When my little man just started to walk, but only on the sofa, my husband would sit and he would walk, and he would be wobbling and whatever and doing a little bit of stupid stuff. And I would be next to him and I would think, I would just see the whole thing that could go wrong, and he's still so fragile, blah, blah, fucking blah. Now, we have a door with a glass to our living room, and I remember going to the kitchen, and our son was really too small yet to pick up that I'm watching from behind the glass, It's also not so very see-through. And I'm like, wait a second. That little rat is actually being way more careful when he stays only with the daddy than when I'm next to them. And I started to think, because he knows I will help him, because he knows I'm there. So I was sitting on a chair and I was like, no, fuck it. He survived with my husband and he will survive with me sitting on the chair. But I was really doing it against myself. I was really stressed about it. Yes, I was really stressed about it, but I've learned.
That's a very good point, because what you're saying is the parent has to go through their own learning experience.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, and this I suspect, because it's becoming less and less necessary, is where parents are getting so soft on their kids. It's not the kid they're protecting, it's themselves.
It's sort of a self-regulating thing. I mean, if you push hard enough as a kid, you know, I mean, you can wear somebody out. You know, you could be worn
what I'm
out by
saying
running
is
after your kids, you know. Just
what
like,
I'm saying is that giving into the kid isn't for the kid's sake,
yeah,
it's for your own.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the parents are actually refusing to test themselves and
Yeah.
learn themselves and extend themselves,
Yeah,
and are
that's
harming
true.
the children in the process. And it's an extension of the selfishness.
That's true. It's you have to, like, I think that as a father, you just have to watch, you know, and you just have to learn, you know, and experience, you know, and I think that's the whole point behind it. I think, you know, you let it get as far as you can, you know, as far as you can, until it's too dangerous, you know. But I think you know, if you can't, and there's in these in some indigenous cultures, the kids are cutting the fish with sharp knives when they're like 2 or 3 years old. It's just it's amazing, you know. Okay, they cut themselves at the beginning, but you know, okay.
But you learn. That's how you learn.
You know, exactly.
And that's how also what Alicia is saying, that's true a lot of times. And you are so tired, and then you're like, okay, fine, take it. And this is also true. I mean, I have tendency in different situations, Alicia, because I have a quite bitchy character like that. And if my son is trying to play on my nerves, he won't get it, because, well, that's my character. No, you won't get it with that behavior. I'm not going to fucking reward that. But I have tendency to, you know, actually, and I realize that, to do it bad by him when he's behaving good, or when when he's nice about something. This is the moments when I have to be careful, to be honest, that I don't leave too many rules, that I remain, you know, the parent that I should be. But I realize that, so I'm trying sorry so I'm trying to, you know, keep an eye on myself with those situations. But yeah, John, maybe this is also the selfishness. There is also something, you know, it's difficult, because also realizing that you really don't know if something, for example, is too dangerous at certain age. Because I remember that at some point I was like, okay, fine, but I know I have tendency to overprotect him, because I already see 10 different ways of how he can be, you know, dead, so to speak, you know, break his neck or whatever. But sometimes something is really too dangerous, and sometimes you actually really should, you know, stop. And then I would be thinking, like, I'm going to that really paranoid stage when I don't know anymore if it's really too dangerous, or is it me that thinks it's too dangerous. And I remember one with the biggest slides there was on the playground we are going. I was like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
But then luckily my husband was with me, and I was like, Maud, he wants to go there, and I just don't know. And he was like, yeah, I would let him do it, see how it go. So
I think one thing where it gets a little bit dodgy is where the third parent starts to get involved with the state, you know.
The state.
It's silly rules. And its understanding, its modern understanding of what is acceptable in parenting and what is not. As in, your kid is playing in the garden outside alone. That's neglect.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
With the state in any sphere is, it doesn't have any investment in it. And if you don't have an investment in something, you don't care in the same way as people who have a direct stake interest in something. At that level, everything is too distant, too vague.
Well, there must be some investment, otherwise there wouldn't be laws or rules or child.
No. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a state. I'm saying the state has a role, and its role isn't telling people how to behave. It's about telling people, okay, you're not allowed to do harm to others. And
Oh,
if
not
you
to
do,
be-
we will prosecute you. And then you should stop.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I want to respond to Alicia. Good for you. I need to be stronger like that. Yeah, thank you, but don't forget what I said. There is the other problems that coming with it, Alicia, because when my son is nice, then I can easily spoil him to the state that I need to correct it. So, everything has its difficulties. It's like I have easier on this one because I have a bitchy character, but there is the other side, and I can be also too strict sometimes. I'm working on it with my son, so it's like, I have it easier with one kind of situations maybe, but there are other situations when I don't always do right because I'm simply don't see it at the time. And
Sann,
And I-
are you telling me you're a human?
almost,
God, imagine my shock.
yeah,
You don't quite know and you have to work it out. Yeah.
exactly.
It's like no one's ever had to do that before. Sorry.
No, but it's
It's like, the realization of that is itself a good thing. Well done.
no. Listen, when to me actually, when my son does a tantrum, or he had this around 2-year-old when he really was. There was a time when he was doing it regularly. That was actually the easy part. Because
Yeah.
I would be like, I wouldn't say that to him, but instead, oh fuck you, 40 minutes in the tantrum, you're annoying me. I'm putting music on the headphones. I keep an eye on you. We're in the same room, but I don't give it them anymore. If you want a hack, I will give it to you. You can always come, but for 10 minutes, I'm going to also listen to the music because this is what I'm going to do now. But that was, purely when he tried to just force me to do something. It wasn't really difficult. It was like if I would leave the room, he would stop crying immediately, and I would go back to the room because I, for example, had to go to the toilet. After 40 minutes, we were like, I need to go to the toilet. So I would go quick to the toilet, and he would be instantly quiet and happy, and I would walk back in the room, and he would be still whining about something, and it would start all over again. So that moment, but it's really difficult for me to accept that. I also see that in schools and in other institutions that deal with children, that when the children go too far with their behaving, with aggression, frustration, they don't know how to deal with that. Often the rules of what's supposed to, the rules are lifted because you have such a hard time. And I'm thinking like, yeah, that means that you have to practice it more, not that I have to make it easier on you.
Exactly.
In very specific situations, yes, because the goal should be achievable.
Mm-hmm.
But not like, oh, poor you, no, okay, so you cannot do that, so we don't do it. And this is what I see at schools. This is what I see, at preschools, and say, no, but he or she doesn't like it, so we try to not to face them with that situation. And like, bullshit, you're supposed to make children face those situations. And it's like, when I can understand to some degree, situation when there is 2 of you and 16 children, parents are having now this point of view, this feeling that no, this is too difficult yet, so we're going to go the other way. And I'm like, do you think 5 years from now it will be easier? No, it will be more difficult.
Yes, quite.
It's also it's what I see also, like, because it's fun. It's like when you take really small child, like when the child is 1.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, because it already can walk a little bit or move a little bit, and that's something you don't like. And you let it slide, and you let it slide, and you let it slide. And then you have to teach that child not to do it when the child is 3.
Too late.
Well, it's not too late, but it's way more difficult.
No, you know what I mean.
harder.
It's like,
Child is stronger, child is heavier to pick it up, child is faster to run away from you. It all makes it
you
difficult.
have to stop bad behaviour as soon as it starts.
Also has
If
more
you stop
weapons.
it as soon as
Yeah.
it starts, it doesn't start, if you know what I
But-
mean. It doesn't ingrain.
But now imagine that the things for a 3-year-old you don't teach, and you start when your kid is 5, and then you stuck at some things when a kid is 15 that she or he's supposed to know it, but you're still in the phase. I've seen children that were 12, 10, and they would still stuck in the phase of being 5. And not because there was something biologically wrong with them, not because they had some kind of illness that would stop them from development. I've seen it purely because of negligence of the parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is this is scary to me, because I see the kids that are now 15, 17, and it's already scary to me that how those people will do in life, and not well, a lot of them. The conflicts that
You end up with these millennials who leave college, university, and no one will employ them because they don't know how to get along with others and accept that other people might have an alternative view.
Yeah, and there's also another problem, and I'm thinking that children, especially at certain age, 7, 8, 10, I see a lot of children just playing computer games and that's it. For example, I have a friend, and she's like, we used to run, we used to play, we used to have such a toys. They don't play with the toys anymore. They're like 7 and 5 or something like that. And she's like, especially, the older one, they just go on the computer and play. Like that's the main activity, right? That's the favorite activity. And another difficult part is that it's actually seemed to be more and more and more. And I'm thinking, at one point, you want your child to have something to talk about with his or her peers, right? So if everyone plays the game and you don't play the games at all, then it makes you sort of an outsider. What are you going to talk about? Everyone talked about at the same time.
I think you need to regulate it. You really have to regulate it. So many hours or so many minutes or whatever a day, and that's it. That's what you get.
But I'm afraid it's going to be really difficult, because it's like
It is difficult.
I see that, for example, the kid goes to the other kid to play, but they play on the computer.
Yeah.
They don't engage in activities. So you can be facing situations that your good friends with you would like to go them, play the ball with them or do something, but they just play in the computer game.
I think though it's
to
a
them, that's
thorny
something,
issue. It's a thorny issue because you want to give them freedom to make their own friends, but you've also, as the adult, got to interject some discretion and judgment. And if a friend is only engaging in unhealthy activity, you've got to say, look, they're a lovely child, but you can't spend that much time on a computer. And speak to the parents, say, look, my child wants to be friends with your child, but not if all they do is spend the time on the computer.
Well, you could have half the meetings at your own house, and then you can
control.
That's
what I'm just saying. But you have to then engage and actually do some work.
Yeah, that's true. And but I sometimes think, how can we really try to change it? So, and I'm curious if we can, so the people actually do want to raise their children again, because there is, of course, a lot of people raise their children, but there is too many parents that either don't have time or they think like, meh, it will be all right.
Yeah, people like to abrogate responsibility. That's unfortunately part of human nature. Not everyone, but some people, you know. You have a population, there are some people who are ultra responsible, and you get some people who are irresponsible.
Yeah, and as I said, it's like I have, of course, I'm in a good position that I can stay at home. But at the same time, there's also a lot of parents that they can't afford it, not because they live, such a lifestyle. They just cannot afford it. They have to have a two income. And then basically it's, you also, well, losing control, a lot of control over what your kid is doing. It's like what you said, real Raven. As a father, it's difficult to keep pushing your child and you have to make it up in the weekends. But now imagine also as a mother, you have the same situation. But you're both working and your child does what? And this is not to condemn those people because I understand that this is how life goes. I understand that for a lot of people, there isn't an option to work less. This is not to say that they are bad parents, that they, this is not to criticize them. But this is the problem of our times. We have only, mother and a father, if we're lucky. This is what you were, John, speaking about. We don't have other families in the house. We don't have aunties and we don't have grandparents. So when you do have to spend your day at work, the both of you, yeah, you count on this one that your kid is smart enough not to end up under the bus and to come home on time and do homework and don't burn the house down. And most of the time that's the case. But there is a lot more, and you're kind of losing control over this. And this is really scary to me. Because when you raise that way, it's like a lot of things you take from the way you were raised. I think it's a natural way. I mean, okay, if there will be really pathologies, really dreadful things, then hopefully you do better. But having a relatively normal house as a child, a lot of things, I think it's natural to pass on how you were raised. Do you think, guys, that's true?
Yeah, of course.
So we are now raising the generation of kids that aren't being raised, and they don't have really quality time with children, with their parents.
There is one little thing I'd like to say is there seems to be a weird dynamic between generations. They talk about, the sort of term I've always heard long time ago, rebellion. You're only rebelling. And to rebel against a rebeller, you actually become staid and conservative. And so you get this swaying to and fro. And what I worry about with the overindulgent parents, the helicopter parents, is they're responding presumably to a perceived lack of care. They're overcompensating. And you will end up then with a generation of children who felt smothered and will give their kids more freedom because, and this is what happens. So your parents overcompensate one way. You build up an impression that's a bad thing. So you vow to do better by your kids and then you overcompensate the other way. And then they feel the lack in the opposite direction and they you see what I'm saying? It's like, that's why you end up with these generations. And I've heard this for decades. People talk about the generations and they go this way and then the next generation response goes the other way. And it's like, that could be a reason, is that we're always overcompensating for how we felt our parents were deficient. I vow not to do that to my kids. And so you do something opposite, which is just as bad in a different direction.
Yeah, because you always. Yeah,
Sorry.
go on.
I just thought of there's a ton of parents who use tablets or iPads or YouTube as a stopgap for I don't have time for you, so you just watch this. They let literally their toddlers be constantly like entertained is not the right word. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's by like YouTube videos. These special videos for toddlers. It's crazy. So I think there is actually more neglect now. I know that there is this thing like when you're fresh parent of being super careful and super protective or whatnot. But I'd say that if you have two parents and they both have jobs, then probably full-time jobs, then and there's no other like family members or other people around to take care of the kids, then there is some neglect is inevitable. My point.
Yeah.
And maybe not you specifically, or maybe not, but I don't know if that's the average mother or whatever, maybe it's classes, it's
no,
by
I mean,
class or
this is the
education or
thing.
something.
It's about moderation. You give too much love, that's harmful. You don't give enough love, that's harmful. You be too strict, that's harmful. You're not strict enough, that's harmful. It's all about understanding that you can't be dogmatic about it. You have to apply effort. And this is why I keep going back to the problem seems to be the laziness of the parent. Their unwillingness to engage in effort.
It's not just laziness. I don't think it's just laziness. It's also being overwhelmed.
Yeah, I fully accept that. Yes, absolutely. It's never one thing anyway. But what I'm trying to say is yes, when you're overwhelmed, it's easier to take the path of least resistance. And this is why I worry so much about the debt crisis, because people start their adult life under pressures they shouldn't be feeling that early in their lives.
Yeah.
You getting into debt is something you should manage. You shouldn't be starting your working life under this mountain of debt of astronomical figures sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, and this is, people call it modern time slavery.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting out of it.
It's how they keep workers compliant. Don't upset the social order, because if you get a bad reputation on social media, you will never get another job, because most employers will search for you on social media.
Yeah. How weird.
Do they have those new trans laws in Holland as well now? Where you if you're underage.
Well, they have a Transvaal. Sorry, old South Africa joke.
Oh, okay, didn't get it.
Oh, but what did you mean, Raven?
That when your 7-year-old child says, you have to call me. Your boy says, I'm a girl now. You have to accept that and bring them to hormone therapy and whatnot, or whatever,
Yeah, terrible.
Specialist. Do they have that in Holland as well? These
not as far as I know.
Good.
It's just amazing how quickly it seeps in to governments, and it's like no one asked the voters' permission for this.
Exactly,
it's just there suddenly, boom.
Yeah, we're going to pass this law, and it's like what?
It just feels like with laws like that, I would really feel like not sending my kids to school, even though, if your kids are kind of mentally stable, then maybe you can
Well, who was it? I watched a video very recently. I think it might have been Sargon, and it's like, so what you're saying is you can't drink alcohol till you're 18.
Yeah. But
you can't drive till you're 17, but you can change your gender at 3.
Yeah. Completely ludicrous.
And I've seen a small part of the podcast, and I don't know how old the podcast is, with Joe Rogan and that Adam something guy. And he
something guy, narrow it down, please.
Adam something.
I don't know, but the conversation was that the guest, the Adam something guy, was arguing that, having a church, giving to a small child at age of 7 hormones, because the kid wants to transition, might not be that bad. And if the kid is feeling like a girl, and he has a friend and they have a son, and the kid feels like a girl, so they give him hormones. And Joe gave the great question. He fucked up a little bit later, because Joe was like, wait a second, but if the boy feels like a girl, thinks he's a girl, let him live as a girl, let him live his life as a girl. Why would you give him more hormones to make him more girl? And that guest was like, because wait, what? Can you repeat the question? Completely, surprised.
that was amazing.
And that was a simple question. If your kid thinks he's a girl, okay, I swallow that. You go in a skirt in the school if you really want to, but you're not getting a hormone treatment from me. That's not going to happen.
Exactly. But funnily enough, what are all these straight? Where did it all come from? This sudden notion that it's hard. What's the word? Unfair on the child not to ruin their sex life forever.
What I find quite amazing, this guy has his own podcast, and he was talking about so-called specialists or experts. He used the term experts a couple of times, and
that's a weasel word.
It's a postmodernist weasel word, because I think experts are, according to Newspeak, is somebody who feels that they are an expert because they are targeted by it. If you don't have that mental disease, then you're not an expert in mental diseases. But if you have it, then you're an expert.
But if you have it, you can't be an expert in anything.
I'm sorry. There is something in America, a course for children and for new parents, from the stupid feminist bitch saying that your child, your baby, have to give you a fucking consent.
Oh, that one.
His or her diaper had been changed, and one of the newspaper named that bitch an expert. This is really surprising. What passes for an expert these days?
Every single.
Listen to the experts, and you end up with shit on your face.
No. Every single grievance studies expert is a self-proclaimed expert by definition, because that subject was literally made up from nothing. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And so it's not possible to actually be expert in it, because there's nothing to be expert in.
Yeah. So, when someone said expert, fuck that. It doesn't mean anything nowadays. If you don't check the research, if you don't really check the person who claims to be an expert,
Well, do you know how many subjects I'm an expert in? Just take my word for it. Sorry, I was.
RadioTalk just wrote that they have in Tasmania. They have now started gender non-specific birth certificates.
Oh. And it's ridiculous, because it's not gender; it's sex.
Yeah,
it's 2.
Or the other way around. Yeah, it is sex.
Yeah.
I don't care if they have gender at birth, because they're not old enough to express their gender. Once they go through puberty, they may be old enough to express their gender, but before puberty, they don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but I can't imagine having a birth certificate of my son or my daughter. I just don't have a daughter, but of my son, and there not be written that he's, a boy, a male. What the fuck?
because actually, it's funny. I was watching Sargon earlier, and it's an old clip from a couple of weeks ago, and he's saying all they have is the manipulation of language. It's all they have, and it's true. All they do is try and they don't redefine words. I hate that term. All they do is try and impose new definitions on words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they're quite successful if you look how far things got.
Oh no, I know. But the point is, therefore, the resistance has to be focused on language. And I've been trying to say this for years. Words matter. Pay attention to what your opponents are doing, because that's where they're focusing their attack. That's where you have to resist them. You're not going to say, "Oh, words don't matter." And I've had people say that. Oh, words don't matter. They do. They're critical because it's how you think.
Yeah, and it's like last year, and I don't know was it a Dutch article or I've read it in English from somewhere else, but there was claim that a word mother is offensive, and that was around coming Mother Day.
It's happened in Britain with the NHS. You're not to call a mother anymore.
But it's terrible.
As well?
It's
female presenting baby carriage or something.
I wouldn't sign any document at the hospital. I wouldn't respond if they wouldn't call me a mother. Fuck them. And the problem is that was during the time when the Mother Day was coming, would be soon. And I'm like, they suggested postcards a Parent Day. And I'm like, no, fuck you. There is a Mother Day and there is a Father Day. And I don't care how exclusive is it. I'm sorry if you cannot have a children. But here is the thing. If you can't have a child, then still a Parent Day does not apply to you.
No, but they don't. It's all asymmetrical. They want Mother's Day. Mothers are wonderful.
No. There was an article when they don't want Mother's Day because it's offensive to all the women who cannot have a children.
Trans women. No, we have moved on, John. It's true. Actually, they want to completely erase gender, even the divine gender.
No, I wrote a little thing this morning, because my sister, where I am, I'm at my sister's house, and she's got a lovely little artwork, and it's a mother and a baby, and I thought that's lovely, and I thought motherhood is a wonderful thing, okay, and then I thought, as is fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
That ought not to be controversial. Right. Yet a powerful ideology disagrees with the latter part about fathers. But while claiming the moral high ground makes you think. Remember, feminism is cancer. Equality for all.
Yeah, indeed.
Because I was thinking about this, because feminism is cancer is only half the statement.
Yes.
You should say equality for all.
Yes.
Because the problem is they say, oh, you don't want equality. So you actually point out, no, I want equality for all. That's why feminism is cancer. And you link the two. Because people are just, oh, feminism is cancer, ha, ha, ha. And then it leads them a way to attack you.
Did you see
why words are important? You need to close the loopholes and say, no, I hate feminism because I want equality.
John, on MRA topics, did you see the last Goodfella thing?
I didn't. I've been busy today.
That was amazing. You know the one where he, it was a Twitter post, a little video that was posted, I think, on Facebook or somewhere, and there were basically two girls beating each other up with bashing each other with books, and you know who got criticized, right?
A bloke,
Boys.
obviously.
Yeah,
It
boys.
must
Boys
be
for standing by and not taking responsibilities for those toddlers,
for
16-year-old
fuck's
toddlers.
sake.
Can you imagine
What do
that?
they want? What do they want? Do they want equality, or do
No,
they
want to be treated by like babies. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're strong, independent women who need men to take care of us.
Yeah. Well,
What?
It's the thing is that it's not they don't say of us. I think that they think that we are super women, but generally women are weak. So
yeah, because
that's how
the
they
real
come up with-
misogynists,
Yeah.
the real misogynists are the feminists.
Yeah, but they exclude themselves. They do this double thing that they think that, but we are super empowered and we can do anything, because we're super powerful. It's just all the other ones of our gender are tainted. So it's really quite crazy double think as well.
Well, no, actually, it's aristocratic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're an elite. They're special.
Yeah.
It's the lower orders. And it literally is exactly the same mentality, usually exactly the same language that used to happen with the aristocracy in Britain centuries ago.
And I think all those speech laws are derived from that as well. They only affect other people because they don't know how to use language properly.
Well, no, it's not that. It's not that. It's literally, the law doesn't apply to me because it's aristocratic thinking.
Yeah. It's true.
And it comes from this sense of their own superiority, innate superiority. That's why they're misogynist. That's why they're racist, because they genuinely think they're better than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think you're better than anybody, you could shit on those other groups with impunity because they are worse. Obviously, can't you see that? What's wrong with you? That's their attitude.
Yeah, and the problem is that those people somehow manage to fuck up really a lot in our society.
Because they cottoned on that if they took the language of, oh, we're the poor victims, we're the ones you need to oppress, while perpetually exhibiting signs of power, they manifest power constantly, and they say, but we got no power, and idiots fall for it.
Yeah.
Which actually makes them worse in the aristocracy, because the aristocracy was like, yes, we're going to rule society because we're better. But they're like, even when they are ruling, they're like, well, we can't, we're not ruling society. Don't blame us. Nothing's our fault. We've got no power.
Yeah, this is and people buying that lie. This is the funny part. People buying that lie, and
it's like years, decades of indoctrination. That you have to be part of the church. Of women worsting. That women always have it worst. Whatever it is, it's always worse for women. Always.
Yes, as a woman stabs a man to death. I'm the victim, and people say, yes, you're the victim.
That's what you call a battered woman.
She's preemptive self-defense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you go through abuse for years and you kill your husband, and he was really abusive, for example. Indeed, you will hear, but she was in such an emotional and mental state. But when the wife would abuse the husband would kill her eventually. First of all, they wouldn't believe that she was abusing him.
That never happens.
And even if that would be proven beyond doubt, then the answer would be you could leave. But I also looked once at crimes done to children when it's gone really bad, when the children didn't survive. And I looked at the cases when both parents were abusing children, torturing children, a really terrible thing to go through. But what I found out was, for example, really brutal cases, and the father gets 40 years and the mother gets 10.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You always get
And
that.
when it's proven they both did it, when it's proven they both have had equal,
Yeah. Because it's assumed the woman was somehow coerced by the man,
They
even
have a
if the
term.
woman was the driver who manipulated the man.
They have a term for that. I think it's called grooming. The man grooms the wife or the partner to
But they never
part in the crime, and
assume.
so it's his fault. It's really quite interesting, you know.
No,
It's,
it's worse than interesting. It is utterly pernicious and vile.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's if you want to get into morals, but I'm just saying.
No. Because here's the thing, right? No one can deny it happens. Everyone ought to be aware it is not one way. In fact, if anything, it is easier for a woman to get a man to do what she wants than the vice versa. Because vice versa requires coercion, whereas a woman getting a man to do what she wants, it's actually part of our human nature. It's gynocentrism, pleasing the woman. And so what feminism has done is they've denied gynocentrism. While exploiting it, they deny it. That is the conjuring trick they do.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. But that was really amazing for me to see those cases. And to be honest, in those brutal cases that I really read, and trust me, that wasn't a fun thing to do.
No.
I don't care if you were groomed by your husband. I don't care. You killed a 2-year-old. You killed a 6-month-old. You know.
It's a
I don't care.
Nuremberg
He
defense.
gets 40 years, and so should you.
It's a Nuremberg defense. I was only following orders. Is that acceptable or not? If it's acceptable, it's always acceptable, and if it's not acceptable, it's never acceptable. You can't say, you know, I mean, who is more coerced? A private soldier in an army or someone in a marriage you can leave?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got to go with more sympathy for a private soldier in an army because they'll get shot.
Yeah, indeed. And we somehow don't, it's amazing because we somehow don't stick up for the children anymore. I mean, we say we care for the children and we say everyone is concerned about the children, but
feminism hates children.
We are shifting that, you know, before adults had to, in certain situation, have more consequences because they were adults, and now we're actually changing that the children having the consequences. That looks at abortion, look at those crimes against the children who especially didn't survive. They are not as shocking anymore. I mean they are shocking, but when women do it, we still try to somehow find an excuse, find an explanation why it happens. And we also feel sorry for a woman more and more often. But when father does it, we don't feel sorry for a father. He's a bastard.
No, yeah. The stock response when a woman hits a man is, what did he do to deserve it?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that and, you know, I've been writing these pieces, and one of them is, and funnily enough, Blair White goes and does a bloody video today. And it's happening all the time, but I've got it written here. It's why it is okay for men to hit women.
And does she mean this seriously, or is it just like
no? I've written an
observation.
Why it is okay for men to hit women? She says, when is it ever okay? And my answer is yes, every time.
Yeah.
In self-defense, because you should never hit anyone except in self-defense.
Yeah.
And if everyone followed that, there would be no violence. Therefore,
Well,
if you obey the principle, you never initiate violence, you are always only ever defending yourself. And if you're defending yourself, I'm sorry, I don't care what sex person attacks you.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't
I don't care
attack
about
if you
either.
don't want to be hit back. Simple. But we don't teach women that. We don't teach girls that. We teach them that what they do is fine. They can't hurt the other men as much. I'm sorry. With a knife, with a gun, throwing heavy objects.
No, it's even different. Even if I don't have a heavy object, I don't have a gun, I don't have a knife. Here is the thing. I shouldn't attack you.
Yeah.
I shouldn't attack you because, I'm smart enough to know, first of all, I shouldn't attack you. I should be able to talk it through with other people or walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part is simply being fucking little bit smart, like having a half of a brain and being adult. And it's like in a societies when there is in a states when there is open carry and they have a guns, there is a less crime because you will think twice. You will think twice to do something to someone, but I should think twice as well. Okay, so you are stronger than me. So if I punch you and maybe I think you did something so terrible to me that I do want to punch you, but when you punch me as a woman, I'm far worse off after that.
Exactly.
And this is how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to think twice. And if I still decide to punch you, okay, my bad. Maybe it still was worth for me punching you that I will end up at the hospital. Yeah. Fair enough, but you had every right to defend yourself.
Women initiate 70% of mutual domestic violence. So men only initiate 30%. That's a huge discrepancy. Women do it at over twice the rate of men. Now, my argument is the worst thing a man can do is restrain himself. Why? Because if you hit me and I hit you back, I'm in control.
Yeah.
If you hit me and hit me and hit me and hit me until I snap, I'm not in control.
Yeah.
You are far more likely to be hurt if I hit you later than if I hit you sooner.
Yeah.
And when I say hit, I don't mean punch. I mean, like a slap or something. But something to say, nuh-uh, to do that, you don't get to hit me without me being able to respond.
John, what do you say to a woman with 2 black eyes?
I'm not going there.
Nothing you haven't already said twice.
No, I'm not going there. Sorry. I'm not going there. I mean, the point is, I believe in proportional response, but proportionate response is not about sex.
Yeah.
No,
because a huge man and a tiny man has exactly the same disparity as a man and a woman.
Exactly, and that's also with a women. A huge.
There's actually a lot of male domestic violence victims who are soldiers, which is really strange. You think that they'd be definitely capable of defending themselves, but there's a huge amount of them who get beat up because they are probably taught to completely restrain themselves, not reciprocate anything, so they just take it. Crazy.
Well, the point is that we have a culture that teaches girls it's okay to assault men.
Yeah.
I still remember
but there's no consequence to anything. There's no consequence to anything.
Yeah, it does nothing but harm.
And it's all controlled by guys only. All the consequences are controlled by guys anyway,
But
so
the point is morally, it should never be okay to assault somebody.
Yeah.
So what are we teaching girls bad morals for?
And
I think the problem is it's learned helplessness. They learn that they don't have agency.
No, it's not helplessness.
It's
a lack of agency and a lack of impact.
Listen,
not helplessness.
I still remember having a conversation, verbal fight over this with my back then boyfriend. It was a long time ago, and he was, for example, raised that no matter what happened, you are not allowed to hit a woman. And I was like, why? And he would be raised like, because if you hit me and I hit you back, I do way more damage to you. I said, okay, but do you think I don't fucking know that? And that's the thing. I know that, so I should actually not be hitting you. I shouldn't. So your strength should be actually the fact that you're stronger, the fact that you're more capable than me to fight should turn you into a victim because you should feel sorry
It's
for
not
me.
just that. No, it's not just that. He doesn't have to hit you that hard. He's abrogating his own responsibility, because if someone comes up to you and hits you and it's not that hard and you absolutely put everything into hitting them back, that's unreasonable, whoever you're doing it.
Yeah, but I think it's hard because I've seen like the man would indeed slap a woman a little bit and she would get attacking him even more because it wasn't painful enough.
It's
Oh,
a
fuck you,
balance.
bitch.
It's a balance.
And listen, maybe that balance is sometimes difficult to achieve, but I don't care. I seriously don't care.
I understand, but this is my point about rules. Absolute rules are a disaster because if the man is under an actual significant threat himself, all bets are off. But that's not the general rule, is it? The general rule is to just let the person attacking you know that you're going to fight back.
Yeah.
And you don't have to use excessive force initially to do that. You just have to literally respond and say, okay, you hit me, I'll hit you back. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be a slap. It doesn't have to be injurious. It shouldn't be injurious. It should just be a literal statement of, you hit me, I hit you back.
And imagine now if I would...
these days then go, how dare you hit me back? Well, how dare you hit me in the first place?
Exactly. And now imagine this. I'm really sorry because those people go through really mental gymnastics to explain why a woman should be, protected people on this planet Earth. So imagine this. I'm going somewhere with Maud and there is a female bitch that really is attacking me. And for example, she's stronger than me and she's physically attacking me. And I'm not strong enough to, defend myself, for example. And then what must they supposed to do in this society? Because then there is a problem that he's supposed to, protect me and be there for me and support me and all that. But then a person who is attacking me is actually a female.
Yeah, because of the lie. It's all based on this lie that women are never violent.
Yeah, bullshit.
All the rules are built round a lie. Women are never violent. And if women were never violent, the rules would work just fine.
Yeah, it's patriarchy.
No, it's not patriarchy. It's a lie.
And of course it's a lie. It's just
a gynocentric lie.
If you look at that construct, though, it's a patriarchal one that kind of puts the woman into that role,
It's not a role. It's a propaganda.
Yeah, but the construct behind it assumes that role, right? It assumes that.
I'm not a big believer in roles. I think it's all BS.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's how it works in their brains. That's what I'm saying, right?
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. I honestly think that this pretense that society gives people roles. I'm sorry, I'm 57 years old. I've never seen it.
It's just interesting.
I grew up with working class parents. Well, my dad's working class, and he never taught my sister she shouldn't go to university, that she shouldn't have a career, that she shouldn't do exactly the same as her brothers. And that was in the 1960s. I'm sorry. It's bullshit, this societal expectation bollocks. Because why was Marie Curie getting 2 Nobel Prizes at the start of the 20th century if there was so much of this supposed bias and bullshit? It never existed. Not in the absolute way feminists paint it to. It's a lie.
Yeah, there were some female blacksmiths as well in
London. In the 16th century.
Yeah. You know, I still remember one thing. I had a friend and he had pretty dreadful situation at home, but he said to me once that his mother admitted that she recognizes the struggle that men are going through, and especially, at the work, the competition, the stress related with making enough money for your family, keeping the job. If you don't keep the job for whatever reason, finding out on time, finding another job on time, so you keep supporting your family, and that competition and the world around how it is, that she is really happy that she doesn't have to do that and just can stay at home. And when we've heard that, and he said, I do respect my mother for being I do respect my mother for being honest about this, and that she is open to admit it. And now when I think about it, how weird it is that for us back then, when we were, I think I was around 18, to hear that, it was really something weird. How terribly our education really gone. That I thought actually back then it was very weird for me that she would say it, and that she wouldn't have an ambition to do better and to do more. Now later, not maybe much later, but I was thinking, okay, there must be something in it that every woman, or nearly every woman, most women want to have a children. So I didn't really have a long period of time of thinking that it's not ambitious to just stay at home. However, I had this because this is what we've been told, that if you want to raise a child, then basically you're throwing away your life. You could do so much more. What more could I do possibly than taking responsibility for a human life?
What's better than
there's an elephant in the room as well.
Sorry?
There's one thing. There was one elephant in the room as well, and she didn't even say it, but I think she very possibly assumed that was completely, it goes without saying, because she wasn't just looking after the children, but also after the guy that came home, right?
Yeah.
Who earned the money, and that she didn't even need to mention it. And I think that that's something that we now keep forgetting. You get these grievances about housework time, and I've seen in the Bettina Arendt article when they compared the numbers, they were pretty much
level,
50-50 level, because the problem is that a lot of those statistics count hours double, so that if you cook a meal and have the washing machine on and look after your child in the same hour, that counted 3 hours.
Oh, it's shocking.
because of multitasking, you see.
But worse than that, Raven, it's this, and this is why I focus on feminism, right? Because they've atomized it down to the individual. This is why they perpetuate the despite no matter how else it's spoken, the reason why they perpetuate the wage gap myth is because it atomizes, it separates. The atomic unit isn't an individual, it's a family, which is a partnership.
Yeah.
It's not the man working at the expense of a woman, it's a man working so as to support a woman.
Yeah. And you work together.
And you work together. She does these things, he does those things. And no one I know, especially in the men's rights movement, says it has to be the woman stays at home and the man goes out to work. Yeah. However, That is how we are biologically predisposed.
Yeah, who the hell is going to feed the baby? Most women breastfeed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's healthy for the baby.
And other thing is that here is like after 6 weeks after you gave birth, if you work, you're supposed to come back work. Yeah. And you know what?
Well, you can.
It's like, it's bullshit. First of all, your kid will be in distress.
Yeah.
Second of all, you need to feed the baby, right? If everything goes right, you're the one that's best equipped to it, right? Third of all, even though everything was fine theoretically with me after giving the birth, I was so tired, and your muscles are really gone. They are really gone. I was so tired that for me, standing up from the couch while holding that little baby, or even while not holding the baby, was enough. I had to fucking rest again. There wouldn't be a possibility for me to go to the bus, even sit in a bus, yeah, go to work and come back. I physically wouldn't be able to do it, because it's weird when you are with child, you have a lot of times to rest. So yes, it's hard, and you wake up every 1.5 or 2 hours to feed the baby, but at the same time, if I have to sit, for example, I still cuddle with the baby. I cannot stand up for another 10 minutes because I'm tired like hell. So I will sit and cuddle with the baby. Now, once you go to work, you cannot say I'm tired. I'm going to do it in a 10 or 20 minutes because I need to sit now. But still, half year after our son was born, that would often be the case. So our society completely didn't look at biology, at that part of us who cannot do it. We just treated, yeah, you can do it because you can feel good enough, and you can fucking pump the milk out of your breast and shove it to the little bottles to the fridge. Or you can get formula to a baby. Yeah, but your baby still needs to be with you. Your baby needs to smell you. Your baby needs to hear your voice. Up to a few months, it's really easier for a mother to calm the baby down than to a father. Not because fathers are incapable or less important, no, but in those first few months, like, the baby was in you. Knows your heartbeat, your voice, your smell the most. So it's naturally that this is different for a baby. When the baby is outside, it's still, you are needed there very, very, very much. So is the father, but to say
4 years or 5 years, you don't want the kid that develops hospitalism. So really, the kid needs you there. The first 3-4 years, 24/7, and that's a task that's completely denied, and that's why it's underestimated.
Do you know why?
That's why births are back, are going back. That's why we're dying out, because it's all played down.
Do you know why feminism doesn't care about those things? Because it was because it was created by a class of women who didn't do it. They employed wet nurses, nannies. The mothers didn't do those things.
Champagne mothering.
And so it's not surprising the ideology has no idea about that aspect of being a woman, because the creators of the ideology literally didn't do them.
Yeah, I can imagine that. The theoretical concepts of Conchita, the Mexican maid.
And to be honest, it's also like what I've seen when I was au pair, and when I was au pair, I had one family that I was doing really not a lot there, because the mother wanted to spend time with children, but there were certain times when it would get difficult because they had 2 children, then they had another one, and they were twins. So, for example, going to school, they preferred to go to school on bikes, but when there would be a dreadful weather, twins were still small, stuff like that. So I was more as a backup. There were certain times when I was with the children, but not a lot, really. I wasn't there to be, hours and hours on, and they just could afford. But
Yeah.
I have the feeling they could do without me. They just can't afford an au pair.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. The mother was really spending time with the children, with the four of them, right?
Yeah.
When they, for example, were going on holiday, they were apologizing to me because they felt terrible to ask me if I would come with them, so that, for example, I could take care of the babies so they can teach the other children skiing, because obviously, they wanted to have this quality time the older children already wanting to
Yeah.
have, but it's kind of impossible if you have 1-year-old with you. You're not going, to teach them how to ski.
But
But
that's experienced parents. If they had 4 kids, that's a completely different story, right? I mean,
But what I've often seen with the friends that I've met, and when they were au pairs at different houses, not always, but really often, then that even I've seen the situations when the mother was at home and the au pair still had to be there if the kid was doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's right. The mother didn't.
And I'm
address
like,
it.
someone asked me if I will have a lot of money in the future. Would I want to have au pair myself? And I remember thinking to myself, hell no, I'm not going to pay anyone to take away from me that time with a kid.
yeah,
And but it's about values, isn't it?
So, yeah.
You value the child, the person. They value the money
But I
and whatever.
I think you can only do it if you have experienced that or some of that with your own parents or mother. If you have experienced good parenting, then you can make an informed decision on how it could be good. I think if you come from a disruptive parents, like a mother who didn't look after you, then the damage is already done. You accept it.
Well,
Then
it's
for
a
how long-
culture. It's a culture.
But
of
wait a
that
second, then for
wealth.
how long is it going that the mothers don't look after their children, that the parents don't look after the children? Because we were talking at the beginning of the stream that still, that 2 generations before, people had way less.
I can
No,
tell
but
you,
this is a
it's-
problem
it's
because it's the aristocratic
upwards
culture.
not just its upwards mobility and the nuclear family. It's those small little families with 2 people and they're both forced to work because they have a big mortgage to serve. I've seen that here in Ireland. It's heartbreaking. Like people who bring their kids to a nursery after like 3 months.
Yeah, but there's a difference there, Axel, between necessity and the culture. My point is I'm referring back to an aristocratic culture where the mother took no part in raising her own children and where children barely knew their parents.
Yeah.
And that was a culture in the
that's a culture.
aristocracy. And they're the people, them and the upper middle class, who started feminism.
Yeah.
And these are points that are very important to understand when we start understanding the whole mindset of the ideology. Because, again, I had this thought today, right? Okay, how can feminism say it's for equality of the sexes when they weren't even for the equality of women?
Mm-hmm.
The first feminists, the suffragettes, did not campaign for the vote for all women. They voted for the campaign for the vote for all wealthy women.
Yeah, the ones that had land, right?
Yeah. So they don't even believe in equality of women.
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
no, and it's like, for goodness sake, it's there in their bloody history, and yet we've swallowed the lie as a society that they believe in equality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a ruling class, and they've always been a ruling class, and their attitude is of the ruling class. And that's why they behave as they behave.
And the women who had to go to work and struggle together with their husbands to make it work and to survive, they didn't have a time for a bullshit. They didn't have a time to make
they were
up
invisible to these women. They were
but they also
invisible
didn't
to
have a
these
time to came up with the problems because they had real problems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
this is what, you cannot live the life without having a problem, because you will create a problem just to be able to solve it, to toy with it for a little bit. But it's as I said, it's weird, because some women, it's not even that both of the parents would work so they would be rich enough to have au pair. Some friends of mine were at the houses. I've never been at the house like that. Myself, au pair, luckily. But they've been when the mother wasn't working, because the father did really make enough money. And yet, she fucking... And they had 4 children, as I said, but so I understand that. But the other houses that I've seen, they would have 1 or 2 children, and they the au pair had to be there constantly, because, for example, imagine that my son takes the toy from his brother. Yeah, they didn't want to solve it. Au pair was for that.
Yeah,
and I'm
because
what the
those
fuck?
people view children as an accessory.
Yeah.
I have it all. I have money. I have a husband. I have 2 cars. I have a beautiful house. Oh, and I have a kid as well. It's amazing to me, and yeah.
But yeah, and it's this lack of understanding of the history of those people who started feminism, what they stood for, and their social perspective, and yet it still resonates through the whole of feminism today.
And in a way, it's and it's not to excuse those women, but maybe if you weren't that well taken care of, as a child, you're a bit neglected, and then you also hear bullshit like that being only a mother is really not, being ambitious, that there is more to being only a mother. I hate when people say only a mother, only a staying at home mom. It diminishes it's the role of a mother. So maybe you can also think that it's not important that you with your children, because you hear that mothers that are mothers are only a mothers. It's not, we don't hear about importance of it anymore.
But I think this comes back to the nuclear family issue, because I fully understand and fully feel for women who end up socially isolated, women who don't get adult company. And it happens because we have a society that, in its striving for wealth and status, creates isolation amongst women at home. That is a genuine issue.
Oh, yes.
Issue of the way society has changed. And so I think some of the only a mother comes from the fact that that's actually a concentrated part of being a parent.
There was
and what happens after the child requires less care, they've gone to school, whatever, and the woman's left at home. And yes, I understand that is a problem, because no adult should be isolated. We're a social species, especially women.
To be honest, I don't see the moment when they stay at home. I don't know, maybe I look at it different. From my experience, if I can say, for me, the most difficult times when our son was really at the age that I supposed to, when we were going on the playground, I had to be constantly next to him, because there is this period of time that you cannot, leave him alone, because he's exploring, but he doesn't walk that well. He really doesn't see, depth and all these things. And then people would think you go on the playground every day. What's the problem? Yeah, I cannot speak to anyone. And this was not... I was overprotective. No, he didn't see what he could do wrong. He needed to learn that, to get this perception. And you say hi to someone which you've seen for a third time on the playground, and maybe you start the conversation, and then one of you has to go to the chat, and you don't really have the conversation.
And that's what I'm saying, socially isolated.
Yes, because now, for example, even if Maud is working, let's say, well, we are extended family now, so it does not apply to me, but let's say even before we became extended family, even when Maud was working, but our son is older, so I can actually have even if it's 15 minutes, but take a coffee and have a chat with someone on the playground. And I don't only see people, I also engage with people, right?
Yeah.
And there are better days when I can do it longer, and there are worse days when I cannot sit on my ass. But because I had it yesterday, that I had a conversation with someone, I'm fine today with just not being able to sit on my ass, for example.
Yeah.
But there is this period of time when when you're getting crazy because, indeed, and then your husband is coming from work, and for
They're
me, it was
tired
also,
out, they're stressed, whatever. Yeah.
yes, but also, for example, for me, it was that because of the line of work of Mod, he comes late. So even if I would wait for him, I, I had to get up in the morning, and this is not a complaint. But
Yeah.
then, what will you do? You're not going to eat the dinner together. You eat the dinner with your kid who doesn't even speak yet. So you alone at the dinner, you alone at the shop, you alone at the playground, you alone when the kid has a.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly my point.
And this is
about
not.
social isolation.
And I cannot stress this enough. This is not complaint about my husband or about men, because for me to be able to have a child, I need to be supported.
But this is exactly what I'm saying, though. Exactly.
But this is the nuclear family.
Yeah, that the nuclear family isn't enough. It needs to exist within a social context of a wider community. And because ever since industrialization, we've gone in the opposite direction, that's why we have so many problems. And it's true that, it's women, who, especially those who stay at home, who are going to feel this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's important as an MRA to say, yes, that is a problem.
Yes.
I recognize it, I understand it, and it needs fixing.
But it needs to also be said that men are, because I hear sometimes so voices, but then I hear that men need to do better. No, it's not.
No,
it's
men.
Because the man goes to work, busts his ass to support, so that I don't have to leave my child behind and I can be with my child.
Exactly. It's not men. It's not the man versus the woman. It's the way society is currently structured. You see, it used to be. We were talking earlier about tower blocks and how Britain, for instance, is different from more spacious countries, shall we say? And it used to be like in a big city like London. Okay, you had the terrace. You didn't have cars. People didn't particularly have wealth, so they often didn't even lock their doors. Kids would go in and out of each other's houses. They would play on the street. It was a community. After the war, the Blitz destroyed a lot of the housing, or what was left was slum housing. So they bulldozed it and built these tower blocks. And they were all lovely and destroyed community.
Yeah.
Because there was nowhere for the kids to play. The parents became isolated. And all these things I'm talking about became a real issue. And so I haven't made this up or thought of it through some act of genius. I've literally watched it on documentaries where they've explained all this. It's not unknown, but it's the inability of the unwillingness of feminists to actually then say, okay, these women have a problem. What's the problem? What caused it? How do they fix it? It's how do we use this and manipulate it to pursue our own agenda, which has nothing to do with it. Because they don't live those lives. Nothing to do with them. They can't even relate.
We have an expression in Poland, all the children are ours. I still remember the times when I would be a kid and I had this luck to have like a second home, and for up to a certain age, for every summer holiday, long holiday, I would go to one of my aunts. She was living in the village, really small, and I had that luck that I would play with with the children, and if we would do something stupid, someone else would see me something stupid and would approach me and tell me off for it. And it was indeed this community that my aunt would go, I don't know, to do the bigger shopping. She would have to go to the small city outside, and that would take a half of the day. Didn't have to be dragged with her if I didn't want to, because it was safer, because I could play outside, because there would be always, like, if something would go wrong, for example, and I would need help, I would just go to the neighbor or to the mother of this kid or that kid, and there would be always someone who knew me and would help me.
Yeah, and because everyone expected that, and this is altruism, because you give and then you get back.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. And by constantly weighing, oh, I've done this, so you owe me that, and worrying about what you owed, it destroyed it.
It's funny. My wife told she was she grew up also like more on the countryside, small little villages, and you'd have all these farmer people running around and like all these kids running around, and then they'd just go to one kid's parents over lunch, and have all lunch together, lunch for everybody, and then they throw them out again. Okay, now go back play. It's just
exactly.
And then just go back on the street.
And I also remember, like, because you talk about that people are isolating. I was raised and I grew up in a block of flats, right? And I cannot tell you how unusual our relation with the neighbors were, to be honest. But I remember that, one neighbor would bring for my mother a lot of fruit and vegetables from his garden, not because, there were times when we were really poor, there were times when we really had the money, but in the times we really had the money, he would bring it as well, not because we needed it, but because, we were next door neighbors. He couldn't actually use it all. All small kids take it, cook something nice for her.
Yeah.
Then I remember one of our neighbors had a surgery and she needed a care after that, or mostly that someone would be with her in case something was wrong. Now, by that time, the healthcare in Poland and the way they, did stuff, she couldn't afford it. She couldn't pay that much money. Her husband had to go to work. My mother would be sitting with me there for hours a day for like half year or something, so that before her son fast came, for example, from work, and then the husband. So my mother would help a lot. We would sit there like sometimes 5 hours a day if it was necessary. So I would play, because it was temporary, it was for a few months, but if something happens, someone needs to be there. But it was normal, like she would later, she would like bake the cake and, share with us. We would have something nice, I don't know, on the market. Oh, this and this neighbor might like it, so my mother would take extra. And when I came here, I've seen at some point this action. There's like action going on. Say sometimes hello to your neighbor, and a neighbor day when you drink coffee and get to know each other. And I couldn't understand why the hell this is necessary. Until I, was here and started to learn and started to understand the language, so I knew what was going on. And like, we have really nice street, I need to say, but here neighbors on average are so separated that they actually started to do the actions like a neighbor's date. So they would barbecue together and they would get to know each other. That's how we've gone. And then you see the kid, but you sometimes don't even know whose kid is it. Like, we don't have that on our street. We have pretty good street. I'm really, but yeah, I've seen that happening, that you don't even know, because you're so indeed isolated and only taking care of what's going on at your house. And yeah, that's how it is. And how are you to be solidar with the people and actually fight for something when you even don't know the people
Yeah.
next to you?
And to be honest, I honestly think many of the problems that we attribute to other things could actually be linked or due to this, because we are a social species. It's how we evolved, and so we get all these dysfunctions from living in an environment that doesn't match our evolutionary one, including being isolated. And we know they done studies into people put into solitary confinement that does terrible things, and obviously that's an extreme. But if you're a person living in a flat and you never talk to anyone, that's solitary confinement.
Yeah.
No one is punishing you, but it's the same bloody thing.
Yeah.
And then we go, oh, there's all these dysfunctional people. Well, yeah, because we're living in dysfunctional environments.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the one I posted on? I posted one in Honey Badger's reel. Is that the one with
I don't know.
Michelle
Yeah.
something? Yeah, I've seen it. It's fantastic.
Exploring Minds, really nice.
Yes, it's fantastic. I posted it in the Honey Badgers.
Anyway, guys, I think
it's very late. It is very late.
I think it's a good time to wrap it up.
And I honestly think there's only us three left.
Yeah. Were there more? I missed the first
there was
hour.
An Attack and
I meant
Felicia and Ludicrous and Nick's Radio
Yeah.
and High
There's
Desert
all
Pioneer.
Yeah. No, but I think it was a good stream. I'm sorry the few times when I was off topic that was due to me not being able to concentrate.
We demand off-topic conversation.
Yeah.
No, but I noticed as I was speaking, I said, oh shit, I'm off topic. I'm not answering what I want to answer, but that was due to me being really tired at some point and I couldn't concentrate.
I would say
to be honest,
for me, Sann.
It enriches because if you only talk narrowly to a topic,
Yeah.
it actually constrains the thought. You have to push the boundaries. That's my view.
But anyway,
to everything else.
Guys, really thanks for coming. I'm really glad. I really like our talk.
I'm really glad you came, Raven, because it was really nice to have more voices today.
Yes. I'm really happy about that. I didn't see you at the beginning. I'm sorry, but that's because I had the other screen open so I could see the chat. But I failed to see you as well in the chat. Sorry, but that's the other thing. I don't know, John, Real Raven. Do you want to say something?
There's literally no one there to say it to.
I just wanted to say, if you watch this stream afterwards and you got this far, then just give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, if you got this far.
Yeah, well, actually, if you watch the stream and get this far, I'll give you the thumbs up. Just drop me a line.
Just leave a comment and then we'll thumbs up your up your YouTube channel.
Honestly, deserve a medal.
Anyway, I'm going to put us off air. Thanks again. And indeed, there is no not giving a like if you watched so far because you bloody fucking loved it then.
Or you're a masochist.
One of the two. Anyway,